Where We're From highlights the rich textures, histories, and experiences of the Asian, Pacific Islander, and Desi American community. Each episode is produced by students at San Jose State University.
Hey everyone, welcome to Team 20.4, the Sophomores. We're talking about who is Chan really. We're discussing the movie Chan is Missing, a really good insight into the Asian American communities in the 1970s and 80s. I am joined with Evan, Austin, Nathan, and Sia. My name is Nishant. We're going to kick it off.
Alright, so in the film Chan is Missing, directed by Wayne Wong in 1982, it's often described, or it's often called the first true Asian American feature film. That being said, it's because it's an indie black and white mystery about two cab drivers in San Francisco's Chinatown. Their names are Joe and Steve, and they go searching for a man named Chan Hung, who owes them money. But the deeper message isn't really about the money or even finding Chan. In the film, it talks more about what's missing in Asian Americans and how they're represented, how they're seen, and like how they're understood.
Yeah, I agree. So every person that they talk to when they're searching for Chan kind of gives a different story. One person says he's a kind man, another says he's a crook, other says he's like radically political, other says he's a fool. But by the end, you realize that no one really knows who Chan is, and that's not just a part of the story. That's honestly, I think it's symbolism. Chan represents the way that Asian Americans have been searching for identities and have been seen as fragmented in history, and they've been fragmented by stereotypes and silence. Everyone projects their own ideas onto Chan, and that's what makes the film so powerful, in my opinion. It just conveys what people have been doing to the Asian American community throughout history.
In the movie, everyone has a different idea who Chan really is. Some say he's this and that, but we never actually truly see him. And I think the film is just about the mystery about Chan, not really finding him, but it's more about identity. And according to the racial formation theory, society always projects these stereotypes and tries to put Asian Americans into this class and other races too. But you don't really know who someone is, and you can't just pin him down to just being Asian American.
And that's why Wayne Wang never actually let us find Chan. It's not just about a guy disappearing, it's about what his absence really means. And the whole idea of quote-unquote the missing person is really a way of just showing how Asian Americans have been kind of invisible in U.S. culture and history. And by the end, when Joe looks into the mirror, he's not really searching for Chan anymore. He's looking at himself. It's like he's realizing that the real mystery isn't Chan. It's figuring out who you are when you're caught between two cultures.
Chinatown in Chan is Missing isn't just a backdrop for the film. It is basically a character that goes along with the film. The streets of Chinatown in the movie are filled with a whole bunch of diversity, and you can't pin it down to one stone. And it is just like how Asian American identity isn't just one story, but it is a mix of everyone that comes along with it, and they have different experiences in life.
Yeah, and that's a really big deal in Asian American cultural history. Chinatowns were both sanctuaries and prisons. And those were places built out of necessity because of segregation and like things like exclusion laws, but they were also spaces where community and culture thrived. Wang's Chinatown captures that duality perfectly, I think, and it's a world where people are, connected by history, but also divided by like generational, linguistic, and also, like class differences.
Yeah, and that ties into something that I found really interesting in class recently, and it was the model minority, stereotype or the ideal. And from my understanding, it's stereotype that Asian Americans critiques Asian Americans specifically, and the film quite quietly pushes back against the idea that Asian Americans are monolithic, successful group. Instead, Wang shows the working class people, political activists, older immigrants, younger Americans, all trying to survive and make sense of their world. That complexity destroys the myth and humanizes the community, and I really appreciated that.
We have a lot of Asians in our group, and I feel like many of us can relate to the model minority myth, as a lot of us have felt social and familial pressures to do well in schools and other things in life. That's why we closely enjoy to talk about the model minority myth.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What do you guys think about that?
I think the model minority myth is, I guess it's like kind of irrelevant now, because especially like in the Bay Area, there's a lot of people there's like a lot of diverse people, and there isn't really much, I guess, racism towards model minorities or just minorities in general. But I feel like the model minority was just left in the past, but it absolutely affected like Asians and Hispanics today, and also Black people. I think a lot of like our economic status has to do with like what happened back in the 90s and 80s.
I, for one, kind of disagree a little. I feel like the model minority myth still exists in our families itself. If some families really look at Asian children to succeed well in school, get a lot of money from their jobs and stuff like that. So I feel like it's not really a big thing in society, but through our own families, it's something that persists.
I agree, because growing up, I constantly felt like I have to be the perfect Asian student, and I had to fit into that stereotype, even with like teachers and everyone. And I just feel like the model minority myth made success feel like an expectation and not an achievement.
Yeah, that's I don't know, from an outside perspective, I guess. Now that like you guys have kind of defined your experiences with it, I guess I've been witness to it, because all my Asian friends, they're good with anything above a 95, and if they don't, then their parents are gonna kill them, and it's like that's not successful. Like I was stoked for an 80. Like I don't know, it's just felt like the success that I would get felt like failure for them, and it just kind of put it into perspective what, I don't know, marginalization can do to a community and like families, and put expectation on kids. But I think that was a good leeway into like the historical side of this. Like this movie's kind of, I don't know, it's a lens into its own, because it was made in the 80s, right? It was 1980.
1970. It was taking place in the 1970s and 80s. So.
Oh yeah, but it was kind of like around that time, the early 80s, late 70s. So it's kind of like a look into the life of like the Asian Americans in this time, and just not burdened by stereotypes in Hollywood. So I think it was, I don't know, it was interesting for me to see, especially since it was an all Asian cast, and like, I guess everyone who made this film was Asian American, so it was super accurate, and everything that was done was deliberate, including like the color of the film, the mix between languages. Like I think it was all there to put you in a position of discomfort. Like for me, watching it, I just felt uncomfortable when I didn't know what was going on when they were speaking any other language other than English. So they didn't have any subtitles, so it's like, I don't know, it kind of put me in a position of just, I don't know, I was just there just watching people speak a different language. I mean, I don't know, kind of gave the effect of like I was an alien and like just couldn't understand. I don't know.
That kind of relates to some of the scenes in the movie. For example, like the scenes in which they're sitting down in their house, right? They're eating dinner. all together at this table, and then some of the people sitting at the table were talking about like how they were. What?
Okay, good. No. Sorry, continue. Sorry.
So they were talking about how the people around them were not like truly American due to the things they do, the places they go, the people they eat with, that sort of thing. And I feel like that relates to what you just said.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties in with the idea of like forming an actual Asian American identity during that time in like the late 1970s and early 1980s. The Asian American movement was trying to define what it truly meant to be an Asian American across like a few different ethnic groups like Chinese, Filipino, Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese. In the movie Chan is Missing, we kind of see the struggle across Asian cultures and ethnicities in the community to provide like a diversity among the people that are Asian. People speak in like different dialects. We have people who have different political opinions and disagree a lot, argue a lot on what it means to be an Asian American, and that's that like fragmented bit of the Asian American culture is shown beautifully in the movie.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why the film was so groundbreaking. In Asian American studies, and like what we're learning right now, we often like talk about the politics of, you know, representation and whatnot, and like, you know, who gets to tell the story and whose perspective is centered. But before Chan is Missing, Asian Americans were mostly silent or, you know, stereotyped on screen, like either in wars or whatnot, either like the exotic foreigner or, you know, the obedient model minority. And the cool thing about this film is that Wayne Wong rejected all of that, and he made a film by an Asian American for Asian Americans, and that didn't really try to like explain himself or like translate itself for white audiences.
Yeah, it definitely did not simplify itself. For me, it was kind of messy and confusing, especially when they went through the dialect changes with no subtitles. And I feel like that was a choice that was deliberate. It kind of made me feel out of place, and I feel like that was kind of the message they were trying to get across. And it kind of felt like real life, especially for what I thought families that immigrated into this country are like going through, and their situation with trying to define themselves in this country, in a new country. And another thing that was kind of symbolic, in my opinion, was the black and white cinematography. It kind of fits the theme of looking at Asian Americans through a certain lens. The film makes Chinatown look raw and kind of documentary-like, but it also symbolizes how Asian Americans were seen in limited shades, visible but not fully recognized.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because that kind of confusion about identity still exists today. The movie really shows that who you are isn't something you can just label or figure out once. It's always changing. That's what makes Chan is Missing so cool and so important for Asian American studies. It's not about having all the answers, it's about the process of searching and figuring things out along the way.
Yeah, and to sum it all up, Chan is Missing is a mystery film that uses language, ambiguity, and authentic characters to challenge viewers to look beyond stereotypes and recognize the diversity within a single community. In the end, what's missing might not actually be Chan, but simply the answer to who we really are and the identity of my people.
Stay tuned for the next episode coming in a few weeks.
Thank you for listening to Where We're From. This podcast is produced by students enrolled in Dr. Joanne Rondilla's Asian American Studies courses at San Jose State University.